Hi, I'm Andy Maddock, and today I'm going to use Python to read and write files. We'll start off with writing a new file. So first I'm going to use a variable. So the variable name I chose is file, so file equals, and then I'm going to use the function open. So open is used for both reading and writing files. So open parentheses, quotes, and then I put the name of the file. I'm going to call this one testfile.txt, comma, and then I can choose whether I'm going to append it with an A, write it with a W, or there's an option to create the file as well. You don't need the create option because append and write will also create the file. So I'm going to start off with writing the file. So W. Once I have the file open, I'm going to put some content into it. So I have my variable file, I use dot, and then I say write, the write function, parentheses, and then the content I want to write. So I wrote a sentence in there. This is the file content. And then I'm going to close the file. Every time you open the file, you got to close it. So that's the close function, parentheses. Okay, so this creates a new file called testfile.txt. It puts this in the content. And if I run it, it's created in the background. We don't see any output because I haven't read the file. If I run it again, it just overwrites the existing file because I'm using a write parameter here. And it writes the same thing again. So let's look at that by reading it. So in order to read it, I'm going to use my variable file again and the same function, open. I'm going to put the name of the file, and then this time I'm going to use the parameter R for read. So this will read the file. It reads it, and then we're going to access it by using that file variable. So file and then read. So the read function reads the entire file. So this will read the entire file, and then we'll want to close the file because anytime you open it, you want to close it if you're opening it in this manner. That reads the file and closes it. So now I want to print this out so you can see it in the console view. So I'm going to use the print function and put the file read inside that. So this will create the file, close it, and then it opens it, reads it, and prints it, and then closes it. So that's what we have here. This is the file content. So it created the file, and then it read the file and printed the content. If I want to create a second line, I have to use a line break. So a line break is a \n, and this is a second line. So now when I do it, it'll write this, overwrite the existing one. It'll put these two lines in there, and then it'll show the entire contents. Play it. So now we have the entire content of the file, 2 lines here. If I use the file write function again on a separate command, this is another line. This actually doesn't create another line. What it does is it's just going to append it on the end here. So anytime you use file write, it just automatically appends it where you left off. So I'll play it so you can see that. So see how this is just appended onto this second line. So if I want to make a new line, I always have to use that line break, \n. And now when I run it, there you go. Now we got 3 lines. So if I want to append it, I change this to A. So now if I run it, what's going to happen is it already exists. It already has these 3 lines in it. It's going to do it again. Well, now we'll have more lines. Run it. And you can see there was no line break between this one, so it just appended it directly on the end of it. So when you append, it's going to start right here. If I do it again, well, now we'll have more lines. Yeah, so just keep on growing. So that's what append does as first write. So now if I do write, it'll just be the 3 lines again. There we go. Okay, so now if I want to read a number of characters instead of reading an entire content of the entire file, I'll comment this out. I'm going to take my file close. I'm going to keep that because we're always going to need to close file. So put that there. And now I'm going to say file read. So it's the read command again, but this time you can say a number of characters. So I'm going to read the first 5 characters of the line, and then I'm going to print that out to the console view so you can see the output. and then I'm going to close the file. So what this will do is it'll create the same file again, but it's only going to show the first 5 characters. So this and a space, so this and a space, the first 5 characters. Okay, I'm going to take my file close. I'm going to move that down here, and now I'm going to read one line at a time. So if I want to read a whole line, I use my file variable. I call the function read line, and then, oops. So read line is going to read the entire line. And now I'm going to print that out to the console view. So I put it in that print function. So it'll read that first line. This is the file content. That's the first line. Now, if I want to do it again, I can just call that same function again, the file read line, and this reads the second line. So now I have the second line. If I want to do the third line, I do it again. So now I got 3 lines because I called it 3 times. And then it closes it. So instead of doing that, I can loop all the lines within the file and then print them out. So I'm going to take my close, move it down here. I'll just comment these out for now. So to read all the lines, what I'm going to do is use a for loop. So for, and then I'm going to create a new variable called line. So for line, and then in, and then the file variable. For line in the file variable, right? I'm going to print this out to the console, so I'm going to put print, and then I'm going to put my line in here. So what this does is it takes the content of the file line by line, and it puts it in this line variable. And then I'm going to print the content of it. It'll go through the whole thing, and then it'll close. So you see that has the same effect that this has. Except if I added 100 lines, it would print the 100 lines instead of having to do read line 100 times. So it puts it in a loop. So being in a loop is useful because then you can do things with each line. You can look for certain variables or check each line as you go along within this loop here. The other thing I want to show you in this video is the other method of opening a file where you don't need to close it. And you use the with command. So we'll start off here. Instead of saying file equals open, we're going to say with. And then you do the open command. And then you do as, and then the name of the variable you want to be file. And now this one you need a colon because it's going to create a block, right? We no longer need close. And now we're going to have to indent this because that's part of the block. So now this is going to say with, and then open is our command to open the file. So we're going to open it as a write file. And then we're going to write to it. And then we can do the same here for the read. So here we're going to do with. We're going to get rid of file. So with open, and then as file, colon. We don't need the close anymore. And then all this stuff would have to be indented to be part of the block. So now it'll open it as file, and then down here we're going to still do the same thing. So it should have the same exact output as the last time. And it does. So that's basically how you're going to read a simple ASCII file. You can remember you can use the append or the write, which overwrites it. These will also create a new file. And then different manners to read the file, depending on what you're trying to do. And then remember, once you're reading the file, if you're looping through it like this, you can look for certain things within each of the lines of the file, and you can do whatever you need to do. The other thing, too, is you can read a little bit of the characters at a time if you're looking for a certain character within the file. Thank you. That's all we have for this video.